Okay, here we go. Hey, ho, ho, hello. Welcome to Mark Stay's Creative Differences, a monthly live stream where I talk to writer friends about the little things that make a big difference to their craft and careers, in the hope that we can give readers some insight to the creative process and writers and other creative folk some practical advice they can actually use. I'm Mark Stay, author, screenwriter, and podcaster. And if you're joining us live, feel free to ask questions in the comments. Tell us where you're joining us from today. Be part of the conversation. A big thank you as always to Dominic Curry for the jingle. Here we go. It's the last episode of Creative Differences in 2024. And despite being a bit of a Scrooge when it comes to certain festive activities, I mean, cards, Christmas cards, especially those cards where people just put your name and their name. What's the point of those? Despite all that, I think I've really pushed the boat out. Oh, my hat's coming off. It's very difficult to keep this hat on. I think I've pushed the boat out here. Look, we've got Christmas lights, festive lights. I've got a hat on and everything else. And what else could anyone want? I mean, maybe from books and Lego and notebooks and world peace. I ask for that every Christmas as well. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the real reason why you're here. Let's introduce our special guest. So we are delighted to welcome the Kiwi author of cozy mysteries and romantic comedies, including the Milverton Mysteries, which are set in an enchanting small New Zealand town and were described by an Amazon reviewer as Agatha Christie, but make it gay. It's only GB Ralph. Yay!
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us from the other side of the world. How is it down there?
It's much warmer than at your house. I did have a Christmas jumper on before, but I had to take it off because I was not going to last this recording with all that heat. The hat is enough.
I mean, it must be weird because I've got family in Australia, and when I was a kid, you get these things. Oh, we're celebrating Christmas with the Barbie on the beach, kind of thing. It was, it was all very. But it's
Christmas, obviously.
Yeah, but with all these northern hemisphere trappings of hats and trees and snow and everything.
Oh yeah, the seasons are all back to front. It's all the wrong way around. It's like Christmas and Easter. You've got new life and eggs, but it's autumn. And then Christmas, you've got snow globes, but you've also got shorts and t-shirt and jandals on. And you are going to the beach. You're going for a swim, barbecue. So it's not really. You're sort of at Christmas. You've got the roast and all the trappings and all of the winter warming food, and then you have like salads and sausages and bread and all of the things that you might have at a barbecue. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge, really. But that means you've got twice as much food, so you last through Boxing Day all the way to New Year's without having to cook anything new.
Brilliant. We've got people from Portland, Oregon, from the Scilly Isles. Amy sends her regards. Andrew's here. Lovely to see so many wonderful people. Laura's here. Hello. Now, feel free to pop any questions in the comments. Emski's here. She's going to ping them up on screen as we go. Nicola May's here. Some big news about Nicola May towards the end of the show. Stay tuned for that. Hello, Nicola. Lovely for you to join us. Lisbon, Portugal. Hello, Lisbon, Portugal. Oh, Lindsay. Oh, Martin's here as well. Sunny Portugal. I met them at the MCM Comic Con. Wonderful book. Martin's book is on offer. Martin, remind me of the title. I can't remember it, but it's on offer for like 49 cents over Christmas, 49p over Christmas. So pop something in the comments. We'll be sure to give it a plug. But yes, it was. Andrew says I was lucky enough to enjoy Christmas gay on Bondi Beach. Is it Bondi Beach or Bondi Beach? It's Bondi Beach. Bondi, yeah, the Bondi Beach. Excellent stuff. Quebec, Canada. Melina's here from Quebec. Wow, this is amazing. It's truly cosmopolitan, isn't it? It's fantastic stuff. Susie's here. Hi, Susie Edge is here.
Hello,
the star, Susie Edge. Great to see you too. Wonderful. Laura wants a dog with a squeaky toy. Well, that was
no dogs, no squeaky toys.
Dogs. No squeaky toys.
And I've shut the door so the cat won't be coming in either.
Oh, poor kitty.
He's taken to jumping up. He jumped up on the desk for the first time the other day. We've only had him a few months, so I didn't want him walking across my keyboard and pressing keys. Or it might have been fun to see on the camera, but as Mark warned me before, we don't want to be. I'll be muted, or my camera will go off, or the screen will go black for 10 minutes.
Folks, as well as questions, I want you to start thinking of your favorite Christmas songs that we can all add to our Christmas playlist. We'll share them at the end. But look, Gavin, can I call you Gavin? Can I call you Gavin?
Yeah.
Nicholas saying bring the cat in. Nicola, no, this is just asking for trouble. These live shows are dicey enough as it is. Gavin, tell us all about these wonderful books, the Milverton Mysteries.
Well, the one on the front there, Death in Douglas Glade, which you're holding up, is the third. Just released the other day. It's a series that is set just down the road from where I live in New Zealand. The series starts with murder on Milverton Square. My main character, Addison Harper, is a 30-year-old gay man, Wellington City boy, who has been summoned to my fictional scenic small town of Milverton to sort out an inheritance. But it's not long before he trips over a dead body, and he's looking very guilty, so he has to sort it out to clear his name, as is the way with Cozy Mysteries. We know it, we love it. An added complication is that he's quite taken by the investigating officer, Sergeant Jake Murphy. I think I'm quite proud of the end of the sort of keyword dump at the end of my blurb, the series. So I'm just going to read it out. The Milverton Mysteries feature a chaotic cast of local busybodies, delicious baked treats, a demanding and disdainful ginger cat, a very slow burn romance with a rather appealing policeman, and of course, murder.
So you mentioned baked treats there. I mean, you open a random page and there is going to be a pastry, a cookie, a cake, some warm fuzzy drink. Is that the secret to Cozy? Pastries and cakes and that sort of thing?
I think they are a common element, but really, and it was a common element that I was very willing to take up because obviously a lot of research is required. My partner and my sister are big bakers, and we've got some excellent bakeries in town. So if you go get coffee, you're sort of like, well, I have to peruse the cabinet and see what they have on offer. And so, if I'm going to do it, then I'm going to make my character do it as well, because then I'm like, well, how does that taste? So I will have to push the boat out a little bit and pick out some other baked treats that I wouldn't normally be my go-to.
It's research, tax deductible research. Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far. I don't want to draw too much attention to it. I think I could spare a few dollars for a baked treat.
Now, the wonderful thing about these books is you combine these really pacey mysteries, but there's a slow burn romance as well. And how do you manage that balance? Because it's the slow burn thing works so well. And it's usually the first element that you introduce. There's usually a kind of a meet cute or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
then there's a murder, and then it's so. How do you keep that balance? Because you want to keep people turning the page for the murder mystery element of it, but also you want to keep them on the hook over a course of books for the romance element. So how do you manage all that?
Absolutely. I don't, not really. But no, the Milverton Mysteries are mysteries first and foremost. Within each book will be a crime will be committed, investigated, solved. The baddie gets caught in the end. All is right with the world. That's the promise to the reader. The slow burn romance is secondary to the mystery in these books, and it is very slow burn, which I am glad that I mentioned on the back of the first book, because I had reader reviews saying, love the book, and the author was not kidding when he said it was very slow burn. So I think that's a get out of jail free card that one was, by putting that on the back. But the romance develops across multiple books, incremental steps within each book. It's not all resolved right off into the sunset in the final chapter. The romance of these books doesn't hit all of the story beats a purely romance reader might expect. So I don't pitch the books as a romance.
Right.
But romance does happen slowly, because there are murders to be solved, and we can't have the investigating officer and our self-appointed amateur sleuth swanning off for romantic dates or lustful encounters when there are dead bodies lying about.
Well, exactly. As Short Round once said, no time for love, Dr. Jones. So
that's right.
There's more important things to go on. But it is I mean, this is something I've sort of done with the Woodville books is have this I sort of didn't realize I really had a romance until the end of the first one. And I remember I gave it to Jeevani Chirika, who looked at it
more
for
Bertie.
Me. I mean, she gave me some great tips on how to sort of pace that stuff out. And it's and it's all about sort of teasing the read, because ideally, when we see people in love, we're like, get together, get on with it, love each other. But when you're an author, you've got to do everything to sort of keep them apart, isn't it? I mean, it's
absolutely.
teasing the reader. You have to sort of take delight in that, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I've had people they're like, oh, it's really slow burn, Gavin. And I'm like, well, they've only known each other like 3 or 4 weeks across these 3 books. And they've
That's
had
true,
three murders to solve, so they've had a lot of distraction. So there hasn't been any time for other amorous things. But I think of the mystery as the sort of the driving force behind the story within each book. And the slow burn romance is being sort of one aspect of the character's development through the series. So I know that there's going to be a little bit of development each book. And I don't know, I think that's what keeps readers coming back, because of course they want to solve the mystery. They're mystery books, they want the mystery to be solved, but they enjoy spending time with the characters, and they want to see how their friendships and relationships, platonic or otherwise, develop.
Yes, there's also what I call the moonlighting factor, and you're too young to remember the TV show Moonlighting, I'm sure, which was oh god, I've forgotten her name. So it's Bruce Willis and very famous award-winning actress, and I've forgotten her name, and the character name was Maddie. And if anyone remembers, just put it in the comments. The whole series was about that tension between them, but the minute they kissed, the show was over. We all lost interest. It was so there is a danger that if your characters are happy or contented, or that tension is gone, then why come back for more? Sybil Shepherd, thank you very much, Martin. Thank you,
Martin. I have got beyond a kiss, but I'm like, there's plenty more for them to do. But there's also, considering I've got the investigating officer and the guy who just keeps involving himself, there's plenty of tension between these two, either having to work together or against each other or stepping on each other's toes, which can impact the romance and sort of slow things down, or I don't know, becomes a bit more peaks and troughs as opposed to just a steady, pleasant incline.
Speaking of peaks and troughs, that's a lovely segue. And folks, if you're interested in the life and craft of an indie author, do go to GB Ralph's website, sign up to the newsletter, because the newsletter is great. I really look forward to it coming in. And you put something up recently on your newsletter. You talk about how you work in scenes and not chapters. And then you put up these charts with the chapter word count. So can we get a bit nerdy and talk about those, Gavin?
Of course. I can't think of chapters because that's kind of like the chopped up packaged version for the reader, and I think in scenes, and then later on I think, okay, now how can I don't know, cut these up into bite-sized pieces or get to the end of a chapter and make you want to go to the next one. I've gone through multiple rounds of edits with the story just as scenes, with a sort of not a chapter title, just a descriptive 10 or 20 word description, almost like a headline of what happens in this scene, as in what is the point of this scene's existence, and then I write it out. And then it's not until sort of I'm preparing the book for beta readers that I'll chop it up into chapters, because I want them to read it and experience it how a reader might. And so I end up with some clunkiness and some unsatisfying breakpoints for my chapters, which my beta readers are very helpful in pointing out to me. But that's fine, because it's not been released to the wider public yet, and I can work on that in subsequent edits and really, make it so you want to keep reading, keep the pace up as much as possible. They're cozy, they're not fast-paced thrillers, but you sort of don't want to languish too much. It's trying to find that balance between both. But so chopping the chapters comes later.
Let's have a look at these charts, because these are absolutely fascinating. And you're not on your own either. I don't know if you saw the comments. Andrew and Laura say they write in scenes as well, so you're not alone.
Yeah, great.
So here we go. So this is for the first book in the series, Murder on Milverton Square. And for listeners on the podcast, we're looking at a bar chart here, which goes through 39 chapters. And on the y-axis, I think, on the x-axis, you've got the number of words in each chapter. only one of which is over 2,500. So the average seems to be about, between 1,000, 1,500. So is this something you look at afterwards and think, and look for the peaks and look for those peaks and troughs? Or is this just an exercise for you to just figure out the shape of it? When are you looking at this?
Yeah, well, yeah, basically when I'm trying to chop it up for beta readers, because earlier than that, and but then I do find I'm like, oh, I've been going on for 4,000 words. There's no obvious place in the middle for me to, because I'm just like, based on how things are going, I'm like, I need a break in the middle of this somewhere. And so I do find myself rejigging bits a little bit to make it interesting, to keep the pace going. And it is, I mean, I'm pretty loosey-goosey as far as the word count is concerned, but I don't know, I don't want them to be wildly out of sync. Like looking at this plot, they sort of go between as low as maybe 1,000 and some above 2,500. So I mean that's quite a range.
Yeah. Let's have a look. So chapter 11 is the long one. Addison sat alone in a sparse office in Milverton's police station. So that's, but even that's
that was
only...
that's just post the murder.
Okay. Right.
So I wanted to basically, let's stumble across the dead body and then cut to the next chapter, because obviously you're going to read the next chapter. But that was sort of, I don't know, you've gone from really exciting, tense, things are building up, dead body, and then now we're sitting in a really dull, sterile, fluorescent, blank room in the police station, and he's just waiting, being anxious about what's happening next.
Brilliant. Jeff says, same here. I think of them as beats or units of action, each of which might have multiple scenes in and only divide into chapters in the edit. So this is incredibly common. Shall we move on to the second book? Let's look at the second book, Poison at Penshaw Hall. So this one, the chapter average seems to be a bit longer this time. But what's interesting here is towards the end, you seem to have more of the shorter chapters. So is that the pace picking up towards the finish line, as it were?
Possibly. And well, there's a bit of debrief, and you sort of, you get to the big end, and you don't want to spend too long fluffing around once everything's all wrapped up. But also, I think those final few chapters are when we've got. I mean, it's not really a spoiler because it doesn't give away what happens. But there's a bit of a car chase, which I am disproportionately proud of, because it is a little bit of excitement when otherwise it's just my characters sort of fluffing around town, having a great time, having a bit of fun. And then, so this was a bit exciting, and I was quite proud of this car chase scene. It's as far as thrillers go, it's probably dead boring, but I was like, this is exciting stuff. I love it.
Fantastic. And here we go with Death in Douglas Glade, which is the new book. And what's interesting here is those first 8 chapters or so, it's long, short, which to me suggests really pacey opening. Maybe, it's because pace just isn't about being fast, it's about having the change in pace. You have to take a breather when something exciting happens, maybe take a breather just to keep people on the hook. Is that fair? Is that
And I mean, I didn't do it long, short on purpose. That's how the story fell. And I think it was more chopping between Addison's being stuck in his head, thinking about things, because it starts off with him on a date, and then, oh no, we found a dead body on our date. How could that possibly happen? But it's sort of swapping between him being stuck in his head, worrying and thinking, because he's quite an anxious character, but then alternating between that and chatting with his date, with a potential suspect, with somebody else in the police station. So we're sort of alternating between in his head and out of his head. And I'm not sure if that lines up with the short, long, but I feel like maybe it does.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. By the time I'm getting to this point, I'm sort of sick of looking at the book. So I'm sort of like, I'm not going to do any sort of extra credit looking at the graphs, as interesting as they are after the fact now, for example, or just, but I put these together just so that I can see any big outliers. Because if I'm averaging say 1,500, 2,000 words per chapter, and then I see a 7,000 word chapter, I'm like, well, this is the pace is the readers have been reading half a book, and then they get this 7,000 word chapter, and they're like, what's Oi! You made a costume change in the break, have we?
Oh, yeah, just some antlers. Don't worry, just ignore those.
But yeah, so like if I have a 7,000 word chapter, and then I'm like, okay, this is probably too slow, or something more needs. If I can't chop this into 2 or 3 chapters, then maybe it's languishing in the middle. There's nothing drawing people along. So maybe it's a bit of a sign that, oh, Gavin, you're taking your sweet time. It's maybe time to. Is this conversation necessary? Is this sort of tangent in his head necessary? Do I need to chop out some words?
And how are you generating these? Is this just you manually putting these into a spreadsheet?
Yes, that is a manual.
But what I've seen, you use a lot of numbers in your newsletters and your social media. You say so many hours working, so many words a day, that kind of thing. Is that just because you're a numbers person, or is that the sort of thing that people on social media react to and respond to? Do you get people reacting to that kind of stuff?
Both. I think I didn't do it on purpose, because I thought people would. It's easy to understand a little number. People can understand 5 pages. They can understand 2 hours or whatever it is. But no, I am quite a numbers person. When people say, "Oh, maths is terrifying," I was like, I love it. I used to be a geotechnical engineer. So yeah, maths is fine. Numbers, I love a spreadsheet, and so I'm quite happy to put these put these graphs together.
Well, I'm glad you did, because they're incredibly helpful, and I think a lot of people listening and watching this will be graphing their novels as well. It's also I used to in Total Film magazine, they would have a sort of graph for the big movies of the month, and they would show you the peaks of interest. And it didn't reflect any kind of length of scenes or anything like that, but they would say, "Oh, we love this bit, but this bit was boring."
Yeah.
And I think it does help to think of your story as a peaks and troughs, as a roller coaster. And troughs are not necessarily a bad thing. Troughs are maybe where you just decompress, you slow things down a bit.
Yeah.
And then we get excited, because if it's all up here, then it's just exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah. And just talk about numbers though. We deal in words all day, every day, but you can't chuck a chapter up on social media and then expect people, as they're scrolling past, to think, "Oh, I'm going to pause and read for 10 or 15 minutes." This random chapter in the middle of nowhere. But a graph is something they can digest in seconds. Oh, sorry, falling over. I'm back up.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Sorry. As a person, I'm concerned for your welfare. As a podcaster, I'm thinking social media gold. Sorry, Gavin.
No.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm quite fine.
It wasn't the cat, was it?
No, it wasn't the cat. I'm fine. I'm alive. Ben Aronovich posts the number of words he writes, and it gives me hope there will be a new book coming out soon. Oh, yes. I haven't been following Ben's word count recently, but it is, I think, one thing that I can find quite reassuring with Ben posting his word count is that you can hear authors saying, "Oh, I just wrote 5,000 words today." And then Ben can write, "I wrote 400 words today," and you can feel, you're like, "Oh, good. He writes a normal amount of words in a day," or just a more manageable and less insane number of words. So that can be reassuring to see.
Yes, I did a library event with him recently, and he was talking about the fact that he likes the words that he puts down to be the ones as close to the final book as possible. He tries to avoid any editing whatsoever in terms of developmental editing. He makes it as good as it possibly can be before it goes out. So he doesn't have many words, but they are painstakingly put down. So whereas I'm just completely slapdash, and I'll fix it later in the edit.
I feel like I'm halfway in between those two extremes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, let's talk about. You had a book launch recently at the Palmerston North City Library. I put some images up here.
Oh, nice.
Which was with the Bruce Mackenzie booksellers, and I've pitched these images from your social media.
Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely packed. And it was it your first live book launch, or had you done them before?
For the previous books, it was more just dinner at home with friends, an excuse to take some pictures and other people holding up the book. So this was the first public in-person book launch, which was quite daunting. But they had to get more chairs out, which was
result.
Yeah. Which was wonderful to see, especially when I had convinced myself that 2 people were going to turn up and that was it. So that was great.
That's a top tip, actually. Put too few chairs out before the event.
Yes.
It's always a good sign. So how did you pack the house out? Any tips for that? You've been, just to say, ahead of this podcast, you've been fantastic. You've been sharing it on social media. You have a newsletter. You've got a following. You know, you've clearly got a fan base and a following who are keen to know what's coming. But to fill up an actual room of people is really quite tough. So how did you pull that off?
I did reflect on this a little bit afterwards, and I was like, it was great. And I think one of the main, I think, came into a few things. One of them being that I really benefited from the relationships that I've built with the local booksellers and the librarians. And we all wanted it to be a successful event. The library gets to host a fun event, a fun and well-attended event, even better. The booksellers get to sell books, of course, but also engage with local readers and book buyers, which is a good reminder in the lead up to Christmas. But yeah, I built these relationships up by going to other bookish events at the bookshops and libraries, and just it's supporting other authors and meeting readers. And this is also how I met and befriended Bing Turkby, fellow cozy mystery author of the Guitar Store Mysteries, who agreed to interview me up the front on the night. It was fantastic, and it was much easier than holding court up there by myself.
Yes, yeah, that does make a difference, doesn't it? Yeah, fantastic. And speaking of booksellers and librarians, certainly in the UK, authors can struggle. Indie authors can struggle. Well, any author actually can struggle to get their books into a bookshop or into a library. You were befriending them. You were going in. What were you doing? Giving them copies? How did that conversation start?
No, it was more just chatting to other authors who already had a relationship with the librarians and booksellers. And then, so it was just the bookseller or the librarian would come over and says, "Oh, Gavin's an author too, blah, 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 blah. And his books are fantastic," or "I've read his books," and da-da-da. And then, so it just ended up being, because I didn't want to be the author going into the bookshop and saying, "Here are my books, please let them take up space on your shelf." Because maybe it does work and maybe that's the way to do it, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. And but I ended up having the bookseller saying, "Gavin, why haven't you bought your books? And I thought you were going to bring them in so we can have a look." And so yeah, brought them in and they stocked them, and then again I posted about it and it says, "Look, now I have a local bookseller that you can buy your books from." And then they sold them all and says, "Oh, can you bring in some more?" And I was like, "Sure, I can." So that was reassuring to see that the copies were moving, and I didn't feel embarrassed that I have these books taking up all this shelf space, because I'm like, oh, they are moving, which is great. I think that was the other thing that I learned about this book launch, was not to be shy to tell people that it's happening. You don't have to ask them to come. There's no sort of "please come to my party" kind of thing. But you can like share your excitement about it, and you can say, "Oh, this is what's happening. This is who might be coming." But the bookstore and the library were great, putting posters up, and I wasn't shy about flooding social media 2 weeks out, 1 week out, 3 days out, 1 day out. Mailing list.
I think the key phrase there is share the excitement.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we feared. There's a fine line between being braggy and boasty and actually being genuinely, "Oh gosh, something's going to happen. This thing's going to happen. Is the book's coming out. I'm genuinely excited. I'm thrilled about this." rather
And then I
than,
think
you know,
they take some of that on, and they want to
yeah,
be a part of the excitement, as
yeah,
opposed to just being, as
exactly.
opposed to you saying, "Come along and support me," which is really a hard thing to do, and you don't have to do it. I don't think you can just say, "This is, I think this will be really cool," and I'm a bit nervous about this, and then they'll want to come along and support you because, I don't know. Well, hopefully they do. But
Yeah.
I think the final thing that I learnt was to look up and sort of enjoy it, because I was too busy thinking about sounding coherent, and
Yeah.
I sort of forgot to be a bit present. And I suspect that may be easier said than done, but next time it is definitely something I will try.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to where it all started. I want to talk about the Rise and Shine series, which is Duck and Dive, Slip and Slide, Over and Out. Are these the ones that you were writing on your commute into London? Am I right in
Yes.
thinking that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Especially
and
the first two, I think. And then it was,
mhm,
was it COVID times by then? I can't remember. So there was no commuting going on then. But no, that was, yeah, commutes. Well, not out of and then back into London, and then sort of in lunch breaks in the
right.
summertime, because I
Yep.
was writing it on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah, which when when you do, when they had the little ergonomics set up your desk kind of things that you had to do every year at work, and you're, oh, here we go again. But then one of the little add-ons was mobile use, and you sort of, I learnt how to hold my phone properly, because, hang on, let me demo for the video, holding like that and then typing on it with the other hand, the other finger, because
Right.
normally you hold it in two hands and you tap 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 on your with your thumbs.
Yeah.
But then I was finding just pain up
Oh,
sort
right.
of my underside of my hand. I don't know what all the bits are called, up your thumb and up your wrist kind of thing. But
Like
if
your
you
carpal
hold,
tunnel kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so holding the phone with one hand and typing with your finger with the other one, and I felt so weird doing it. But it means you're moving your whole arm and you're not straining stuff. But anyway, that was because it was so convenient and easy to do, and I could just tap out some words. Didn't have to get out all my kit and get out my keyboard. And this, I did upgrade to getting a Bluetooth keyboard. So I just propped my phone up on the tray table and then had my keyboard on my lap. Oh, amazing. Word count, game changer. But
well, it's interesting because these are novellas, these and they do get progressively longer as well.
yeah,
Is that something you noticed as well? Was that just
there was no plan.
you know, no plan? That's just
No.
it just happened organically.
Yeah. I mean, it was supposed to be a short story of only a few pages, which grew into a 100-page novella, which is the first one, which then grew into 3 novellas, each longer than the last one. But I didn't go in with any plan. They were a lot of fun, but they are very much my guinea pigs, my test dummies. And yeah, so
What were the biggest lessons you learned from working on these that you ported over into the Milverton Mysteries?
well, the biggest thing, or the first thing I learned really, was that I could finish something, which I think was so important and just so valuable. And so that Duck and Dive will always have a special place in my heart, because it was a thing that I'd finished. But with these books, I learnt the process. I learnt how the sausage is made, you know? And like, writing a book was no longer this magical, mystical, unobtainable thing. It was just this sustained effort, equal parts fun and frustrating, but completely rewarding. I had written a book. The other most important thing I learned with these things, the thing that I took to the Cozy Mysteries, was reader and genre expectations. I wrote these rom-coms to amuse myself, and I amused myself, but they are varying lengths. They are not romantic enough for romance. They are not comedic enough for comedy. There's too many secondary characters with too much screen time, too many funny old people, too many laddish mates, too much swearing, not enough focus on the main.
This sounds great. I don't see what the problem is.
I know. As I say, I had a great time writing them. the first book. I think that is the third iteration of the cover. But they're my guinea pigs, and so I wasn't precious about them, and I could change them. And now, yeah, that cover, it communicates what's in the book now, and that is what it's designed to do. But I finished these, and I was like, okay, I need to be more focused. And I thought I either need to, my shortlist was like, I need to write about characters falling in love or solving crime. So I decided to do both. But to still keep the focus, mystery sort of takes top billing. And then then I knew I could have fun with the romance running in parallel, but in the background a little bit. So it's effectively the secondary genre or the series subplot. The biggest challenge of writing cozy mysteries themselves were the restrictions imposed by the genre, because it's no graphic violence, no explicit bedroom activities, no swearing, no harming puppies or children, and like I said it before, the baddie gets it in the end. You know that everything's right with the world. It's murder, but we have a wonderful time. But limitations, they force creativity, and I found myself having so much fun skirting around the edges or sort of brushing up against these limitations and coming up with plausibly deniable ways to cover slightly more adult content while remaining PG.
Right.
But it was a real challenge, and it's a lot of fun. So I think because it's like with the Witches of Woodville books, they can be enjoyed by children and adults because they have adult themes and content, but it is not obvious to maybe a younger reader that that's what's happening, and they sort of miss it, but the adults get it. And but there's, I don't know, the joy and the fun that the kids will really latch onto as well. So I think that is a benefit that your books, which can be maybe cozy fantasy and then cozy mysteries, can have a bit of, can cross an all ages kind of crowd, which I think is really fun.
Absolutely. And look, let's face it, kids are tougher than we think when, especially when there's a
Yeah,
thing we
absolutely.
were talking about this at dinner, weren't we? And there's a thing going around on the internet with someone saying, oh, the novel for Wicked contains adult material not suitable for children. And they reel it all off. And I'm thinking, well, that also counts out Shakespeare and the Bible. So,
I know.
calm yourself down. Let's move on to our regular questions. So these are all our guests every month. Okay, let's kick off. What small thing has made a big difference to your creative process?
In your last month's episode with Mike Shackle, I was like, that's a great answer. And it really resonated with me, which was the friendship of other writers and having in-person meetups. And I was like, absolutely. But I'm not going to repeat that answer because that is a great answer. But for me, I think a small thing that has made a big difference in my creative process is having a deadline. No deadline, nothing happens. Deadline, let's go. I work well to a deadline, which is something I learned back in school. But as an indie author, there's not really such a thing as a deadline. So I had to create one myself, which is the main one is setting up a pre-order for the next book, which forces me to get going.
Do that, don't you? Because if you get that wrong, certain online retailers get very upset with the authors, and you're not allowed to do one next time around. And
I know, which is motivating.
Yeah.
It can be stressful, but I think it's a good kind of stress, the motivating kind, not the debilitating kind. But it's still deadline. It can be a year away, which is forever. And I need to constantly remind myself that I need to make little deadlines along the way, ones that have consequences. Otherwise, I'll pull a Douglas Adams and enjoy the whooshing sound as deadlines go by.
Yeah. What's the thing that makes you think you're ready to start writing on a project?
When I back calculate from my deadline and find that I'm already behind schedule. I don't know. Where is even the start line? Is it jotting down ideas, sketching them out, plotting? Is it start writing? It was a dark and stormy night. No, I'm ready to start drafting my next book now, like as in chapter or scene 1. As of this week, I have a victim. I have a handful of suspects, each with their potential motives, and that's about it. But I have about 2 novels worth of content, and that I want to fit into one novel. So we're bursting at the seams, and I need to start writing to see what ideas are actually smaller than I thought they were, ones that don't fit in at all, ones that are maybe bigger than I had originally thought and will spark more ideas. But I can't sort of idea dump or plot anymore. I just need to start drafting. I've got enough signposts along the way, and I just need to go and see what happens.
The bursting at the seams is kind of the point where I know I'm ready to go. Where I'm just okay. This is I can't contain this in my head anymore. I need to start getting down.
Yeah,
now, it's interesting. You say you got a victim. You got a whole roster of people. Do you do the Agatha Christie thing of getting to the penultimate chapter and still not knowing who it was, and then going back or how do you choose your murderer?
I've done that. I think I've done that once, where I've gotten quite far through the book before I've decided who my murderer is, and that's the magic of editing, is going back and looking clever and like you'd intended that all along. But no, it's when I'm coming up with these potential suspects or a variety of scenes that they could places they could happen. I don't know at that point who the murderer is. I may have 5 or 6 potential suspects, and I'm about to start writing. I still don't know, but I'm sort of thinking about maybe who could be it. But when I'm creating these suspects, I'm not thinking, okay, now it's time to write my murderer. I will create my suspects, and then I will have a think. I'm like, who could it be? Who would be the least likely or most likely, or who can I trick the reader into believing, but also being fair, which is always important with mysteries. You can't just introduce a character in the second to last chapter and then say it was him all along, but you never met him. But
yes, it's the sort of thing I used to do when I was about 11, thinking I was clever.
Yeah. You never saw that one coming, did you?
No. How do you remember that idea that you have at 3 a.m?
The Notes app on my phone. Absolutely. I have this wonderful image of myself being this author who has a notebook and jots things down, and I don't know, looks wistfully out the window at the scenery. But it's the Notes app on my phone, because I always have my phone on me. And like, other than the middle of the night, it's in the shower and on a run that the ideas hit, which are both difficult. They're all difficult places to be taking notes. So it will be jump out of the shower, dry my hands at least, and then get my phone and jot down the idea. Or when I'm running, is waiting till I've got a nice clear bit of pavement in front of me, and then trying to either briskly walk, or depending how brave I'm feeling, I'll keep jogging and just jot down some. And then I look later and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. But the Notes app on my phone.
I have an exercise bike, so I because the blood's flowing, isn't it? And that's one of the things that really helps. And suddenly you're thinking, and so luckily I don't run anyone over in my exercise bikes, but shower's the same thing as well. Yeah. What's the best happy accident of your writing career?
I think the Milverton Mysteries audiobooks. Sorting out audiobooks was this thing on my to-do list that I really wanted to do, but it was just so daunting, so outside my experience. I'm very happy publishing my ebooks and my paperbacks myself, but audiobooks was a whole other kettle of fish. I had other things to focus on, much more within my control, such as writing the next book. So audiobooks kept getting shunted down the road as this thing that was too big or too hard, or I'm like, I really need to commit to sort this out. And expensive too, if you're going at it yourself. To recruit a voice actor and someone to... I have no experience. It's not like you, where I'm used to video editing or audio editing. I don't do music. I have no idea about these things. Anyway, I received a random message through the contact form on my website from someone purporting to be a commissioning editor from an audiobook publisher, and I thought, surely not. Next time I caught up with a local author friend for coffee, I was like, do you reckon this is legit? And she says, well, it could be. And it was. So it was a happy accident, but I also think it was because I'm constantly talking about my books in every way I can think to do it, on every platform and place where readers are. So it was a happy accident, but I also,
we've got a question from Laura here. I enjoyed the audiobooks, but was surprised they were read by an English guy rather than a Kiwi. Was this a deliberate choice, or was it made by you or the audiobook producers? So that's an interesting point. I mean, they came to you. So was the narrator part of the package? Did you get much of a say in that?
It wasn't part of the package, but I had narrator approval.
Right.
They had, when they asked, like, who do you think? Like, give us a bit of a short list of who you think could be this narrator, what they would sound like. And I said, well, the most obvious would be a Kiwi voice actor, but this is an American audiobook publisher. And I was like, I'm not confident that you have a huge list of Kiwis on your roster. So I basically, I said, ideally a Kiwi. And then I said, but you cannot have an Australian. Absolutely not. No offense to Australians, I love them dearly, but any Australian or Kiwi listening to this audiobook would be like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Even the Australians would be like, that's an Australian accent, that's not a Kiwi accent. So, I mean, maybe Americans won't notice, but we will know down here. And I think part of the appeal of these books for Americans, which are the biggest readers of these books, is that it is something something they don't know, something they're not familiar with, but it's nice and they like it. And so having an American narrator, I think, would have sort of shattered that illusion. So I said, if you can't get a Kiwi, then some other sort of generic Commonwealthy accent might be the go. And so I was sort of thinking some Southeast England accent, which people are used to hearing on the TV, and so they won't notice as much. That would be great. And then they sent me this audition tape from Philip Batley, who is the audiobook narrator of these books, and I was like, yes, absolutely, sign him up, fantastic. I was looking up, and his voice acting credits, huge. And then I was like, oh, he's been on a couple of episodes of Downton Abbey, and I was like, yes, everybody knows Downton Abbey, that's fantastic. He's done such a good job, and so many readers have come on board because they just like, I listen to everything that he makes, and I don't normally listen to Cozy Mysteries, but I really enjoyed these. So lots of readers I'm picking up via Philip Batley, which is really cool. And so many people says, yeah, it's like the Witches of Woodville books, how the audiobook, the narration just sort of takes it to the next level, you know. It's like, oh, it's been read to me, and so he's not a Kiwi, but I think he does a fantastic job. And so many of these characters have accents, and I'm like, I would never have picked that. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it, because I said, you're the professional. Please just, I don't know, from your short list of accents you're happy with, just assign them to people. I gave him a bit of a guidance on some of the main characters of the types of voice they might have, but otherwise I was like, go to town.
Brilliant. Yeah. And finally, for our regular questions, then we'll get onto listener questions in a sec. Is there a character or story swirling around in your mind that you want to write, but you're not ready to write yet?
I really want to write an epic space opera, which is very, very off genre. But I mean, I read a lot. I read quite widely. I don't just read in mysteries and rom-coms, but I'm sort of talking like Peter F. Hamilton, The Expanse, Martha Wells, Alistair Reynolds, June, Adrian Tchaikovsky, N.K. Jemisin. Really, I mean, I'm writing mysteries at the moment, and some of these books that they've written include mysteries, include romance, and I'm like, these are all things that can go into a space opera. but I'm not ready to take on the galaxy-spanning, empire-building, political intrigue. The scope is just too vast. One day,
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I think it can be easy to get carried away with the world building with that genre stuff. But at the core of it, if it ever works, it's about people and relationships and their stories, and you've got that, So yeah, because I think people come at these genres the wrong way. They build the worlds first and worry about the characters afterwards, which and for me, it's always character first. That's a great answer, and I definitely want to be the first to read those. Any questions from those gathered with us tonight, Emily? Right. Oh, yes. Martin Trainer. Yes. His book is Curiosity and the Cat. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can check that out.
Fantastic title.
It is. It's brilliant. It has a beautiful cover as well. Really, really beautiful cover. And I think it's like 49 cents or 49 pence over the Christmas period. But even if you're listening to this after Christmas, check it out. Gorgeous cover. Wonderful storytelling. Thank you, Martin. Any other questions, Em? Yes, Andrea says counting baked goods as research. I'm in the wrong genre. Like we said, it's maybe consult with your accountant first before you.
My partner reckons my next series needs to be a traveling detective, so that we can be like, I even had someone on social media suggesting potential book titles about, I can't remember any examples and I'm going to garble it completely now, but basically just traveling around the world, a different mystery in each city.
Sounds great.
I know.
I do know one author who put a hot tub into one of their books and was able to claim on it. And perfectly legit as research.
Yeah.
So
don't let him hear this, because I think he wants a hot tub as well.
Any more questions, Em? Nat Connors, Gavin, do you find your chapters get shorter as you get towards the end of the story to build momentum? Excellent question.
Oh, I do feel like my scenes get shorter, and because I'm sort of excited about getting there. But then I go and chop my chapters up into different ways. So maybe I think it's earlier on, my scenes are maybe spread over 2 or 3 chapters. But then later in the book, I might have 2 or 3 scenes within one chapter. So the pace is increasing, but the chapters aren't necessarily getting shorter.
Excellent.
Does that make sense?
Excellent question, Nat. Thank you for that, Nat.
Thanks,
Any more
Nat.
questions, Em? Lisa says, most of my new author finds these days come from other authors I enjoy. I found GB Ralph through Mark Stay, and Mark Stay through Queeve McDonald. So networking makes much sense. Well, Queeve is the center of the universe, you see. That's the thing. Queeve knows everyone, and he's a delight and very, very generous with his time. So, and Lisa says, I followed the same path with the authors. Thank you, Queeve. I'm hoping to get Queeve on this podcast sometime next year. So,
Mark, I found Queeve through you. So at least we've got one going in the other direction.
Brilliant stuff. Any more for any more? Nicola May, do you envisage any of your books going to screen?
Which author doesn't really? I mean, TV and movie rights are available now. So if anybody wants to throw disgusting amounts of money at me, they are most welcome to. But I think it's like with audiobooks. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say the mystery genre. TV loves mystery. That mystery, and loves loves a small town. Loves that cozy mystery. That is huge. So why not? Why the hell not?
Yeah.
Why have you put together any kind of pitch deck for it? Have you got an agent that can maybe open doors for you in that direction?
No, I do not.
Well, let's talk after the show.
That's on the audiobook. Just like the audiobooks are on the to-do list, so is that.
Well, like the audiobooks, put it out there. Manifest it.
We're putting it out right now. Yep. Up for grabs, everyone.
Brilliant. And Andrew says, how do you get in and out of scenes? Is it organic for you, or do you plan at all? These are good questions. I love these.
Yeah, they are. My scenes, it's a little bit of like when I'm coming up with my suspects, at the same time I'm thinking, where could the interview or the conversation be? Because I don't want them all to be in the coffee shop. I don't want them all to be in the visitor center. I want a bit of variety. And so it's a little bit of a case of, okay, I've got some ideas of suspects where they might be interviewed. And then either I'm a shocker for basically filling in all the gaps and writing, and then they like walked there. But sometimes in the edits, I'm just like, and then they were there, because nobody cares how they walked there, and there's nothing interesting to add along the way. So getting in and out of scenes, it's sometimes I just need to be like, okay, we're starting the scene, and then if I need, but a lot of the time I find myself having to write into the scene. And like they come through the door, they sit down, and then later on I'm like, oh, we don't need that. There's nothing dramatic or interesting. It's not telling anybody anything. So I do find myself slowly easing myself into each scene and then out again. But then often that gets cut because it's kind of boring.
Yes. Yeah. Come in late, get out early, you know.
Yes.
Andrew has another question. What do you find yourself doing the most when you edit? Cutting, adding, working on characters, prose, all of the above? Cutting, it sounds like, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of cutting, not much adding. Sometimes I write sometimes it's just dialogue that I then have to build a scene around, because I'm like, okay, this is the conversation and the tension and the drama that needs to happen. And then I was like, oh, I need to add a few dialogue tags, and I need to say who's saying what, and I need to have them moving around a little bit. But otherwise, sometimes it can be basically, I'm never adding dialogue because there's always plenty of that. So yeah, probably cutting scenes, but then adding prose probably.
Yeah, when I'm first thinking of a scene, I will just do dialogue. I won't do anything else. I'll very often just have people chatting back and forth, almost like two actors doing some improv. And you know, a lot of that dialogue might get cut, but at least it gets the scene up and running. It gets it going. So cool. Thank you everyone for your questions. Here we go. Jeff, having moved from romance to cozy mystery with an element of romance, do you think you'll write full romance again in the future?
Oh, I have this idea that because throughout the first 3 mysteries, I think the great thing about mysteries is you constantly have excuses to introduce new characters. You've got suspects, people giving you information. And so I have so many characters which I've had so much fun with, and I'd love to give them more time. And I thought, how cool would it be? I've got the Milverton Mysteries. How cool would it be to pick some of these characters who've had just single scenes and like the Milverton romances, and they each get 1 book each. And I think that would be a lot of fun to write. My main slow burn romance in the mysteries, they could just be this well-established couple in the village that have been there for a few years, and then just because I don't want to get too complicated trying to tie everything together. But I think that would be quite fun, because I've got at least 4 or 5 candidates for their own romance novel within these mysteries that I could pull out. But I'm like, oh, I need to. So that is a potential next series. But then I have to learn how to write a romance properly, which is not an easy task. To hit those romance beats and make it a really satisfying read and be self-contained sort of in 1 book. So that can be my second challenge. But I think I'm more likely to tackle that than before the space opera, I reckon.
Cool. Well, look,
no promises anytime soon on that one, though.
We're getting listener comments. They're loving that idea. Well, look, let's move on. Well, there we go.
Sorry.
No, go. That's Martin. So, do you envisage a big international down brownie like murder case in a future book? Good one.
That'll be for my traveling detective. So then I'll have to go and investigate all of these cool old buildings and beautiful locations. So, yes, I think that would be a very important thing to do. And tax deductible as well, because it's all going in the book.
2 more questions. Brilliant. Okay, this is great. Never had so many questions. This is fantastic. Michael Thompson, when I read your books through Kindle Unlimited, do you make any money?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Kindle Unlimited, I had intended with these mysteries, I thought, okay, when you do Kindle Unlimited, you commit to 90 days at a time. So 3 months. And my thinking was, okay, it'd be great to sort of get it out there, introduce it to more people. And then after 1 period of being in Kindle Unlimited, then I'll pull it out of there, and then I can make it wide on Kobo and Apple and all the rest. But then after those 3 months, I was like, oh, half of the royalties are coming from Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to chop that off and then start again elsewhere. So I thought, I'll just renew it for another session, another 90-day period. And I was like, okay. So yes, the answer is yes. Possibly half the money comes with Kindle Unlimited. So absolutely, you can read them you can buy the ebook, the individual unit itself, like normal. You can read through Kindle Unlimited. Audiobooks, paperbacks, they all make money for the author. So whatever format, or even just get them out of the library, because then the librarians, if they see people getting your books out, then they will be like, oh, we need to buy an extra couple of copies because the wait list is too long. And so that's money going towards you as well. And then, because they only last a few reads or however many reads, and the books are destroyed, so the library has to buy another copy.
That's a great question, Michael. Thanks for that. That's really cool. Okay, so and Nicola, marketing wise, which platform do you find the most successful for your books?
I presume you mean like social media platform. I don't know. They all sort of have different purposes. My Instagram is sort of, I've inherited friends and family who are very lovely. There's only so many times you can sell the same book to your friends and family. But then Facebook, I've picked up a lot of readers who I wouldn't have expected. And because I hadn't used personally Facebook a lot myself, but there's a lot of readers that love using Facebook to find their books. But I think TikTok was really fun. It comes in waves where I get enthusiasm to do some videos and then it drops off again. But that is because TikTok shows your stuff to a lot of people who don't follow you. So I think that has been really interesting to pick up people who've never heard of me because my videos have been shown to them. Whereas on the other platforms, a lot of it is your stuff getting shown to a subset of your own followers who already know you. But I don't know. Probably the most engagement is through my mailing list, actually, because that's the most reliable. It gets sent out and I can see roughly how many people open it. And but a lot of people aren't about mailing lists, but the ones that do love it. And it's great because I know it's in their inbox and they can click on it. It doesn't just whoosh past on the feed.
Yeah.
So I'm always pushing my mailing list because that's where it starts. And then it's sort of like, okay, I have the content. Now I can recycle that to the social medias.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you always own it as well. You know, that you're not
Absolutely.
your social media. It's not going to be taken over by some billionaire lunatic who would then tank that very same social media. So thank you everyone for your questions. Those were absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Gavin, what's bringing you joy at the moment? Could be books, movies, TV shows, and maybe give us a Christmas song or two as well. So kick us off.
Books. Where's my copy? Everyone this Christmas has a secret. It is by an Australian author, but that's okay. Benjamin Stevenson. Absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. It's got like 24 chapters, and each chapter has another clue, like an advent calendar.
Wow, that's nice.
It's very cleverly structured. It's the third in the series. The first one is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, I think. And the second one is Everyone on This Train is a Suspect. Oh, fantastic. Very clever and very breaking the fourth wall and talking about mysteries while writing a mystery. Very, very fun. Another is The Holly King by Mr. Mark Stay.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not like I've got a copy here and you told me in advance.
But I didn't even have to, I'm not even saying this just to butter up the host because this is the end of the podcast. So I'm genuine. I didn't get a chance to read it before Christmas last year. And I can't hold it up because it was the audiobook. But Mark can hold it up for you. But I thought we're coming up to Christmas now. So now is the perfect time to read it again. And now I'm up to date again. And now I'm looking forward to The Corn Bride early next year.
March 13th.
March. Don't even have to wait very long.
Yeah. So it's, I was my big shout line for it was going to be "It's the wedding of the year," but now you're getting married and you've ruined that. Thanks, Emily.
The fictional wedding of the year.
Yes, I guess so. What else is bringing you joy, Gavin?
Only Murders in the Building. Again, great fun. Disney, I think, Disney Plus.
It is on. It's Disney Plus over here. I think it's
What season are we
Hulu in
up
the
to now?
States.
3 or 4?
4, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, great fun. I didn't know what to expect with these 3 going in, but it is cozy, quirky, a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it, and have really enjoyed each season. Yeah, great fun. And
I love it, but they get podcasting all wrong.
Yeah.
No one records a podcast like that.
Yeah. I mean, I have no experience with podcasting or sort of true crime podcasts or anything like that. So I have to just believe that this is how it's really done. Maybe you're doing it wrong, Mark.
Yeah, well, it would explain a lot.
What else? I've just been watching Arcane on Netflix, which is just this gorgeously animated TV show. Absolutely fantastic. I've been rewatching the first season in anticipation of the second season, which has just come out. A lot of really cool. They're making TV shows these days, and they say, it's a sort of a 2-screen viewing experience where they expect people to be on their phones the entire time, so they don't put maybe as much effort into making it look as lush. But this is, if you find yourself just absent-mindedly picking up your phone to scroll, but your eyes are constantly drawn back to the TV because it is just so stunning. So beautifully animated. I've lost my Santa hat. Oh well. What else was it? Was it games? Did you say?
Yes, games as well. Yes.
Oh yeah. Mini Metro and Mini Motorways. They're by this Wellington-based studio, beautifully designed games. There's sort of Wellington-based studio, Dinosaur Polo Club. Mini Metro it's like a tube map, but it starts off blank, and a couple of stations appear, and you have to draw a line between them, and then more stations appear, and you have your passengers that start piling up at stations, and they have a daily game, and it takes like 10 minutes, and it's quite satisfying drawing all these beautiful lines between. That's the mini motorways you got on the screen at the moment, which is a bit more detailed, a bit more involved. But yeah, very fun games, and really enjoyed them.
That was great.
And yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to quickly race through what's giving me joy this month. First of all, The Penguin, which is on now on Sky in the UK. I think it's HBO or Max in the US. Now, I didn't have hugely high expectations, but this really does live up to the Sopranos meets Batman pitch. And a lot of people have been praising Colin Farrell. That's him there, believe it or not, and rightly so. But for me, it was Kristen Milioti as Sophia Falcone, who just completely stole the show. She was just amazing. And if you liked her in this, check her out. There's a brilliant time loop rom-com called Palm Springs.
That's great. That's so much fun.
It is a brilliant film. It's on Amazon Prime in the UK. I think Hulu in the USA. It's absolutely fantastic. The other thing I'm enjoying at the moment is Christian Nairn's autobiography, Beyond the Throne. Now, most people know Christian as Hodor from Game of Thrones. He was Owen in Unwelcome in that film, What I Wrote. There he is there. He is a genuinely lovely man. I remember a long conversation we had about his character. He really put so much thought into it. Little things like the character has a pink Game Boy, and he was talking about the fact that he didn't have any choice in the color because he had to get it secondhand and all that. He really thought about it. Now, before Game of Thrones, he was already a successful DJ. He was a drag queen called Revlon, 2 V's to avoid litigation. He's also appeared in shows like Our Flag Means Death. And the book, I'm about a quarter of the way through it, and I'm absolutely loving it because it alternates between him starting on Game of Thrones and childhood flashbacks. So he it was coming out to his mum and his best friend in his teens in 80s Belfast, which is you have to imagine how hard that must have been. And it's done in his voice. Very often with these things, it's the celebrity talking to a ghostwriter, but it just captures his voice brilliantly. Loads of great photos in here as well. Highly recommend that. Really enjoying that as well. In terms of music, I'm really enjoying Rosalie Cunningham. She's got a new album called To Shoot Another Day, and the title track is like a 70s, 80s Bond theme before they got too formulaic. She's absolutely brilliant. And in terms of Christmas songs, and I need to come to you, Gavin, about your Christmas song in a minute, but for me, well, to add them to the Christmas playlist, you could go for Kate Bush, December Will Be Magic Again. But this could easily sit beside any of the classics on the first 3 albums. The only trouble is it's not on any streamer, so you would have to sort of burn it from the CD, which I did back in the day, which is why I can do it.
You have to find a CD player to be able to do that first.
Exactly. But I would also recommend Nick Lowe's song Christmas at the Airport, which will bring a smile to the face of anyone who's had the misfortune to attempt a flight at Christmas, which is tricky if you're not a reindeer. And it comes from his album Quality Street, which is a really good Christmas festive treat album. So Christmas tracks, Gavin, have you got a Christmas track you'd like to share with us?
I was actually... While I was having breakfast this morning, one of my Christmas playlists was playing, and one that I really enjoy is Ali X's version of Last Christmas. I think it's Last Xmas, which is I really enjoyed it. But I think the one that I had said to you before was it's not a real song, or it's not a single. It was a mashup again of Wham's Last Christmas and Chapel Roan's Good Luck Babe by twin brother DJs Altago. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or not, but I mean, it's about giving away your heart at Christmas, but also kissing 100 boys in bars. And it's great fun. Excellent mix. But I think it's, as far as I can tell, it's just on one of their Instagram reels, and they were promoting a show or something. But yeah, that's great fun.
You did send me a link, and I had a look before, so I'll put a link in the show notes so everyone can check that out. So brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gavin, for being such a wonderful guest. What's next from you? What are your big goals for 2025?
Well, to write the next book is the main one. Write the next book, which is Fright on Stage Right. It's going to be wicked. Sort of spooky nighttime theatrical vibes. Oh yeah, I've got it for pre-order now, as you can see there on the right. It's already up. Yeah. And it's sort of set around Halloween and Guy Fawkes.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's going to be a very different vibe to the previous ones. In that, well, the other ones are sort of more daytime. This one's more nighttime, and I'm going to have a lot of fun just bringing in the spooky time of year and in the theatre. There's a lot of mystery books written in the theatre, and so I will have a lot of inspiration to draw from.
Fantastic. You celebrate Guy Fawkes Night in New Zealand?
Well, we set off fireworks and we have bonfires and guys and all that, but it seems like we have it more so than Halloween. Halloween is very low key here. Really? There may be maybe like a spooky movie at the movie theater. A couple of cul-de-sacs might put up some decorations and have some trick-or-treating, but it's not really a thing.
It's so weird because here Halloween is massive. Yeah. Fireworks night is just when people have their displays, but you don't have penny for the guy or anything like that anymore, do you? Not really, no. Yeah. So I think people let off fireworks and have no clue why they do it.
Yeah.
But thank you for being such a fantastic guest, Gavin. I'm just going to move you backstage for a minute while I waffle on about a few things, not least the Green Room. Let's talk about the Green Room. Twice a month, I run live sessions on Zoom where, if you're a writer, you can ask me questions about the craft of writing, your work in progress, or the business of publishing. The sessions are fun and informal and chatty. I thought they'd run for like half an hour. They've all been about an hour long so far. You can send me questions in advance, and they're recorded live and saved on Ko-fi for exclusive access to Green Room supporters. There's a link going across the bottom there. I'll put it in the show notes as well. So there's no long-term commitment with Ko-fi. You can support for just a month. It's £20 a month for Green Room membership, or for as long as you like. Pop in, pop out, whatever works for you. My goal is to be able to give supporters advice that will make a real difference to their writing and career. Because the way I see it, having worked in this industry as a salesperson, bookseller, and author for over 30 years, I've made every mistake so you don't have to. The next Green Room sessions are Tuesday, 10th of December. Now, if you're watching live, you'll be able to make that. If you listen to the podcast, you've missed it. You missed it. But let's just see. Thursday, 19th of December, and then we'll have 2 more in January as well. I hope to see you there. So pop it of Ko-fi and check that out. Let's not forget, you can pre-order The Corn Bride. There it is. A beautiful cover there by Harry Goldhawk. It's coming in March. Order from all good retailers. Now, if you want a signed paperback, then pop over to the Woodville Village Bookshop. And I got books, and you can buy them wherever books are sold, good bookstores. If you want a signed and dedicated copy, you can come straight to my store at the witchesofwoodville.com website. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creative Differences. You'll find all the links we discussed in the show notes for this episode and on the episode's webpage at markstaycreativedifferences.com. Huge thanks to Emily for our production assistance, to Kai Newton for the edit. He's going to do really quickly before you go away to look at wedding venues this weekend.
Yeah.
And to Dominic Curry for the jingle. And a very special thank you to my special guest, GB Ralph. There is. And to everyone who's joined us live tonight. If you're listening to the audio podcast or re-watching this on Facebook or YouTube, thank you very much. But we really missed you. And you are more than welcome to join us live next month. Speaking of which, and next month's guest is Nicola May, who's here. Say hello, Nicola. Come and say hello. Nicola is going to be with us on Thursday. There she is. Thursday, 30th of January, 2025. And Nicola is a best-selling author, renowned for her heartwarming and humorous romantic comedies. Over 18 books to her name. Her work has captured readers' hearts around the world. She's top 100 Amazon Kindle bestseller. She's achieved the remarkable feat of reaching #1 on Amazon twice. She's a huge advocate for indie authors. And now she's signed to Storm Publishing. She's going to continue writing heartfelt rom-coms. So, yeah, we're starting 2025 with an absolutely amazing author. I hope you can join us live. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, things like ratings, reviews, likes, shares, subscribing, these all help massively with those AI algorithms. So until next time, happy writing, happy reading, and being different. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Gavin. And let's all wave goodbye, because that's what you do at the end of a show. Bye, everyone.
See ya.